You will fall in love with me. You will take me away from this place.
Full disclosure, news and commentary, FD, episode 123, 123 episodes of Full Disclosure. Mein Gott, mein Gott. Today's commentary is inspired by my favorite comic book growing up, celebrating their 60th year anniversary this year. And I'm going to take a look back at what was happening in wrestling when my favorite comic, the Fantastic Four, began. Strange stuff, yes. Strange for sure. Big, huge weekend in Georgia / surrounding area. Wrestling, no doubt about that. APW drew 103. Great number for them for a non-big show. Good stuff there. But of course, and Georgia Wrestling Federation pulling in, and has to be, I'll have to get confirmation from Tim Nobles, but that has to be their biggest number, 180. In spite of not having Stranglehold involved. Somehow they made it work and drew the biggest number that they've had. Somehow, some way. My goodness. Before we get into the shows, because they all warrant a big discussion, I wanted to, Facebook. One of the good things about Facebook, for the myriad of shitty things, like finding out that a bunch of friends that I knew are complete fucking idiots and shit like that. One of the good things is when they kind of bring back stuff that you've had before. So 6 years ago, first let me show the comic book, since I'm going to be talking about the Fantastic Four just a little bit in the commentary. Something that I think has happened in Georgia wrestling is people have good posters now. It used to be this joke that most people had shitty posters. That is no longer the case. I think most of the posters look really good. PCW, our stuff always look good. Always look good. One of my favorite comic book covers, or certainly the most memorable, was this one. Boom, right? Alpha Flight, issue 12, and One Will Surely Die, where the big promotion was one of Alpha Flight's going to die, and buy this comic, which inspired this. One of my favorite posters we ever did. Really, really cool, and the show did very well, if I remember right. So just something that kind of came up in my feed that I thought was really cool. Woo. Wanted to share it with you. All right. A number of things to talk about. Let's talk about this. Jody Hamilton, the assassin Jody Hamilton, Bobby Eaton, Burt Prentice, all dying. We were going to do a special tipping point talking about Burt Prentice, and then I thought, well, we should talk about Bobby Eaton too, and just so much. I don't know if Larry's up for it, honestly. So we may do it, we may not. Hopefully by tonight, I'll know. But I can certainly understand either way that Larry wants to go with it. But all three of those guys, especially, Bobby Eaton was one of those guys that we used to imitate in the ring. Burt Prentice, of course, a legend in Tennessee. Just the corny fucker of all time, even down to him hiding the fact that he had frickin' cancer, except for one or two people until he died. That guy, if it was always rumored, the fact that nobody ran down and got a shoot interview from that guy, what the fuck is going on? And while he always claimed he was going to write a book and then perhaps had already written it, I don't know if that's true. But that is, I got to say, if that book was written, I don't even care if it was edited or not. I don't care if it was just like a stream of consciousness that came out on a bunch of freaking, whatever, legal pads. That book needs, I can't think of, I was going to say, I can't think of many books I would want to read more in wrestling. I can't think of any wrestling books I would want to read more at this stage of the game. It's crazy to think. Burt Prentice, my God. And then, of course, Jody Hamilton, who I enjoyed impersonating for years. Hey, it's Assassin Jody Hamilton. Whenever I think of Jody Hamilton, I think of Rampage Pro Wrestling. And I saw that they're doing their reunion show on September 17th, which is a Friday, I believe. Super exciting. Really cool. I'm sure we're going to do a bunch of stuff about it. We're definitely going to have something to talk about on a Tipping Point about the Rampage reunion. I wonder who's heading that up. I assume that it's AJ, but maybe it's not. I would love to know more about who's heading that up, who's organizing it. Some of the matches they're putting together already, I'm like, that's great. And it feels very Rampage, because that's a show that deserved to have kind of a swan song. I'd said it for years, and people are, God, beyond reason about what a jerk I was about the fact that they never really got to close the door on it. I'm glad they're getting this show. I think it's very appropriate. It's very cool, etc., etc., etc. All right, let's talk about it, right? When you've got SCI weekend, which involves TWE, which drew 60, the 2 nights of the Scenic City Invitational Tournament, which both drew in the like 200 range, and then the Futures show, which happened. So the Futures show was run by one by Robert Martyr, who's a guy I'd seen in Florida before, and who really like caught my eye. And it's cool. It's cool that he won it. And then of course, the Mac, AC Mac winning, super great. I don't know anybody amongst the boys / girls who isn't happy about AC Mac winning. He's just that guy. And it made me really happy reading Larry's report. By the way, all the reports from Rob, Rod, Larry, etc., gwhnewsandnotes.blogspot.com. You're going to want to check them out. But hearing that AC Mac cut this hellified great promo after he won made me even happier. And all the little touches, right? Last year's Futures winner presenting to this year's Futures winner. Same with the trophies. Same with the stories. I mean, all those little things I think are really nice touches. I think they're really cool. I think they're really great. Larry and I had a long talk, which I'm going to put on Patreon. A really long talk about SCI and the whole idea of it and the whole vision of it and what it is compared to what it used to be, and what it could be moving forward. Really, really cool discussion. And the fact that Larry and I can engage in these, you would think, as much as Larry and I already have contact through Tipping Point and through GWH and all the videos that I put out, and Larry, when I say something that particularly strikes him, and God knows I put out a ton of videos, Larry will call me up and we'll talk about it. When Larry writes a report, we talk about it. You would think we would be sick to death of each other, or he would be sick to death of me. But on the contrary, we love this shit. Yeah. It's a kind of the partnership that I never thought would be a bunch of years ago, but now I'm so glad it's here. I'm so glad we're friends, and I'm so glad that we continue to sally forth in spite of many people who would like Larry to get rid of me and have asked over the years. And I get why people would want that. And to them, I just say, fuck your mothers like your dad wish he did it. Yeah. So what else is going on? Southern Honor. Did I take care of everything else so I could talk about Southern Honor at length? I did. Excellent. My notes about the Rumblejack. The fact that that event is a draw in and of itself is incredibly noteworthy because all the other major shows in Georgia have their own gimmick things, like some Battle Bowl-ish kind of thing or whatever, but none of them draw. So Southern Honor can lay claim to that. That that the Rumblejack, a Dylan creation, I am sure, is now an event in and of itself. They drew 513 according to Larry, so I'm going to believe that number, right? Or 518. I don't want to shortchange, right? The last time they drew that was for Joe and Huck's blow-off, dog collar match, fucked up that car, match of the year shit. And now the Rumblejack. In fact, I will go forward to say this, and I have not seen the Rumblejack, but just reading about it, it's one of those where maybe that's up for match of the year. And that's a remarkable thing. But the fact that they have their big anniversary show, or they have the show where they're going for 1,000 every year, and apparently they're October 1,000, they're still going for it, right? But the Rumblejack, just in and of itself, the fact that it drew over 500, that's a testament to how they've built that show up every year. And that's fantastic. Just the gimmick of the match itself draws. And that's something that nobody else can say. I'm sure people are going to write me and try to argue for this, that, or the other. I'm not talking about that you build up a thing and, and then you have some kind of blow up. I'm talking about this is an annual thing. This is like Royal Rumble, right? Like that kind of feel where like people love that match and they want to see the stories and stuff that come out of that and develop. And I think that is an important and amazing accomplishment. It is event viewing, and that is amazing because, yeah, cool. What else? So, Austin Tower against David Ali. Like, Southern Honor went, for my opinion, back when I saw it, my number one note was like, where's the heat? Like, there's, a bunch of stuff being set up, but where's the heat? Now Southern Honor got the heat. Southern Fried got the heat, right? When you look at the major feds, Anarchy's got the heat, right? It comes down to baby faces that people care about. Not just heels that dominate and kick the shit out of people, but baby faces that they want to see conquer and win. Something that I posed to Larry was, one thing that I don't know if people have done successfully is to have a babyface champion that was as good or better as a champion as they were for the person chasing. That is my challenge, right? For those of you who may or may not be switching a title to a babyface, having a babyface champion, how can you make that babyface champion relevant in the long term? Right now, the one major that's definitely got babyface champions, well, Peach State with Ace Haven and Anarchy with Will Caution. But are they going to have title reigns worthy of the incredible chases that the both of those guys put up? And whoever ends up toppling David Ali and in Southern Honor, maybe it won't be a babyface. I don't know that for sure. But whoever that is will have a difficult reign to top because David Ali's at Southern Honor has definitely been eventful and great. And they've put a lot of guys under him to make sure that that reign really matters. And then when he puts all of his chips and loses them to somebody else, that they're going to have a huge stack of chips to try to live up to that kind of reputation. But I think it's really great. Southern Fried, certainly. They got Judas coming up against David Ali. And then David Ali and Judas are taking each other on again um, in at WrestleMerica. So that's really cool. But I think the notion that David Ali is so far ahead of everybody, I think that's been dispelled, not only by Michael Judas, and from what I hear, rumor wise, Michael Judas is about to do even more big shit, which is awesome. But I noticed that Joe Black, great match after great match, did that great match with Timmy Lou Retton viral. And now he's going to show up at IWE and take on Hammerstone. What the fuck? And then Joe continues to have great matches. Had a great match with David Ali. So we saying Joe Black is not in the conversation for Wrestler of the Year? And what about Chip Day? The match with Chip Day against Davey Richards is the best match I've seen on the Indies this year. And I've seen a lot of great ones. So is Chip Day not in that conversation? Of course he is, right? We're in August. When we reach the end of this month, we'll be 2/3 of the way through the year. Madness. Madness. People have asked, where is the top 10 list about promotions? Quite frankly, I've had so much to do. And people continue to send me things to review. All of that stuff takes time, and then real life stuff is, of course. My kids go back to school tomorrow, and I'm the one who's like primarily in charge of getting them there, picking them up, all that kind of stuff. So I have a lot to juggle, but I'll figure it out. But I'll tell you this, and I'll end the suspense. Southern Honor's #1, and I think even something like the Rumblejack being a draw in and of itself shows that. And I know for a lot of people that's a big shock because it was a big toss-up between Southern Honor and KLT. Fuck, I couldn't say it without fucking laughing. But KLT can keep fucking clamoring. It's one thing I was thrilled about with Southern Honor. It's like, please draw a big fucking number. So KLT can quit, can just get this notion out of their ass that I saw where KLT is raising their ticket prices. I guess the little criticism about, I'm sure they would dispute that. Like, it had nothing to do with Steve's crit. No, remember, nobody ever responds to what I say. That never happens. But it always seems to happen. But they're raising their ticket prices. Which, I don't know if that's going to hurt their attendance or not. I do know that they still tend to have some shit show tendencies on the show, in spite of the fact that other parts of the show are really good. Obviously, the Exotic Youth are really good. Skrilla's really good. And they have other things that work, but then they have shit show tendencies. I don't know what to tell you. What are shit show tendencies, Steve? Oh, here I am going off on a tangent. Boo, rant bell. Shit show tendencies. You got the old freaking guys showing up and horning in on every major angle that they have. That's a shit show tendency. If you got guys that just sort of go off on the mic, that this used to be much more commonplace on shows where guys would have a match and then you'd always have a promo after the match so guys could get their heat back, or guys shit show tendencies, right? It's the thing that stops. When I was looking at the top 10 promotions, there are promotions that I think have improved greatly, but they still have shit show tendencies, which is a tendency. Here's another shit show tendency, so you can identify it within your own shows or shows that you like if you're a wrestling fan, right? Do they tend to see a match, if they have a match that's pretty good, but they tend to blow it up as, that's the most amazing match I've ever seen, that's a shit show tendency. The inability to be honest or to see yourself in context with wrestling as a whole. It might be the best match you've ever had in that Fed, but if that's the case and it's still not a great match, that means you're a shit show. Because greatness, like I said, greatness for an individual wrestler comes down to, well, where are the great matches? The Jeff G. Bailey standard, right? It's like, Dolph Ziggler's so underrated. What's the great Dolph Ziggler match? I mean the great Dolph Ziggler match. Not the very good Dolph Ziggler match. I'm talking about the match that was like fire. right? Because like Bray Wyatt the Fiend, you know, anytime a news story comes out of any kind in wrestling, you have people that are just so contrary. And I was wondering, like, for example, like the new Suicide Squad is so much better than the fucking Suicide Squad from before. That movie from 2016 or whatever was a shitty movie. It was a shit movie. And the new one is better. I don't think it's like blow away the greatest fucking movie ever like a lot of people do, but it is markedly better than the other one. But I was waiting because I knew I would see somebody who would have some kind of bullshit contrary take. And I saw fucking Sal had the fucking take of, yeah, no, that movie was, the new Suicide Squad was terrible and the old one was better. And then, of course, a couple people in the comments were like, yeah, I agree. Like, what the fuck are you, what the fuck? What the fuck? So you can find people to agree with just about anything. But I think having some questions to ask and answer matter. So for the federations themselves, the leagues themselves, what's your great match? What's your great technical match? What's your heat? What's the hottest thing you've got going on right now? Who are your most over baby faces? And who are your most hated heels? And are they really beloved? And are they really hated? Asking those simple questions. And if you had to explain what were the major things going on, and could you do it in less than 2 minutes with it still making sense? There's a lot of people who are doing things just for themselves. And then a lot of people who are doing things with an audience in mind. The common defense, and I hate this common defense of like, well, the fans liked it. But is it great? But is it great? I think greatness matters. Yeah, and around. So getting the shit show tendencies out of your show matters. Oh, something else I wanted to talk about. Like deathmatch. Southern Honor got a taste. Action gave us a death match. Tanks showing up everywhere, making people bleed. Death match is the pro wrestling left to us. And everybody else seems to have caught on to that fact and are booking accordingly. Including AEW. And I notice even in the WWE, boy, they're letting a lot of hard-way blood stay on camera now, aren't they? Just saying. Just saying. Commentary. Fantastic Four. It's the comic I loved when I was a kid. Favorite villain of all time. And overall, comic book character, Doctor Doom by miles. Favorite story, Triumph and Tragedy. I fucking base wrestling teaching on that thing. You know, with him trying to get his mother's soul back from Mephisto. I fucking love that story. And The Thing is my favorite hero. For a million different reasons. And I'll talk about that at length later. But it really struck me at, 60th anniversary. One, I had to do the math and go like, well, then what year? 61. 60 years ago is not the 40s, is now World War II. 60 years ago is now the 60s. Fuck a duck. I myself am turning 50 in a few months. Wow. And I dress accordingly. Well, maybe I don't. But that got me thinking, look, what was happening in pro wrestling 60 years ago? And I divided it amongst the United States, Mexico, and Japan. Am I going to have some kind of big overall arching thesis statement about this? No, I just find this stuff interesting. And if a thesis statement develops, it develops. But 1961, Pat O'Connor was the NWA World Champion. And all NWA title matches were decided by 2 out of 3 falls matches, and there were no tag champions. Again, tag team wrestling, I've said this before, are gimmick matches. And so the NWA considered them not worthy of titles back then. So 1961, Pat O'Connor, in the most famous match that happened that year, defended against Dory Dixon in 2 out of 3 falls at the Parade of Champions in Texas. I had no idea that there was a show, like a big show entitled Parade of Champions, that later on World Class Championship Wrestling would incorporate as the name of their big show. Learned some shit. Pat O'Connor, man. Pat O'Connor. The biggest thing that happened in Mexico was Gory Guerrero, who was the NWA light heavyweight champion, defended against Ray Mendoza, 2 out of 3 falls match. Gory special. Gory Guerrero. Yes, that Guerrero family. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Meanwhile, in Japan, there was no New Japan Pro Wrestling. That would not come about until 1970. Same with All Japan. Inoki and Baba were sitting under the learning tree of Japan Pro Wrestling Alliance leader Rikidozan, who was the champion at the time. There was also something called the World Big League Tournament, which was shortened to the World League Tournament, which was the big event every year, and Rikidozan won that as well. He was the champ, and he also won the tourney against Mr. X. Dun, 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 the White Devil Peril came over so Rikidozan could beat his ass. Today, something else noteworthy that happened, 1961, was the year that these two guys were born. Vince Russo and Jim Cornette. Oh, someone should have got them together, had a baby fight, man. Just like freaking cockfight, just attach knives to their little baby hands, put them in the same place, and like, go at it. By the way, their first words, not that you care, Vince Russo, bro. That was his first word. And he continues to overuse it to this day. And Jim Cornette's, of course, cuck. I don't think I'm going to do better than that. We'll just end it. This has been Full Disclosure.